Hello, my name is Simon Phillips, and I play the drums. I started working with Jack back in 1976. I remember very clearly driving from London with Huey Burns and Tony Hymas in Huey's Carmen Ghia Volkswagen. And we arrived at Jack's house. It was a beautiful summer too, 1976. It was an amazing summer. I must have brought a drum kit of some sort. I don't really remember what I brought, but I think I brought something. We met Jack, and he was very quiet, quite reserved. And we set up in his music room, both Tony, Huey, and myself. And Jack picked up his bass, and he had a microphone. He had a little PA system in there. And we just started playing. In those days, we didn't really have demos. I mean, very rarely. But most of the time, people would just start playing. And they would maybe write out some chords, but I don't even remember any charts. I think we just kind of followed Jack, really. I remember it being quite a day, actually. It was the first time I'd played with Jack. It was the first time I really heard Jack, I think, apart from, all the Cream music that we all knew and loved. It was very different, though, to his playing in Cream. And that was the start, and it was the start of pretty much the next 2 years of working with him. I have a lot of memories, actually. You see, especially when we went to the States, it was actually my first US tour. I had been to New York and Philadelphia in 1974. But that's as far as I got in the US. But this was a proper tour. I remember we flew from London to, I guess it was IAD, it would have been Washington. And then we picked up some rental cars and drove to Wilmington, Delaware. And that was our first show. So it was all new for me. But Jack, I was very young. I was 19 years old. Well, actually, by the time we went to the States, I was 20, because it was in 1977. He really took me under his wing and showed me a lot of, of what it's like to tour and just being on the road with a band. It was really an amazing education for me. It was fantastic. And the band was, it was a really, really good band. It was amazing. And I also got to see, what Jack does and, how beautifully he sings every single night and how well he plays. It was a very big, momentous part of my career. It was funny. After the band basically fell apart in 1978, we kept in touch. And I actually ended up moving to the same part of the world that he had been living in. And then I think I moved in 1982. But then, and actually I remember Jack coming round to my house just after I moved in, just to say welcome to this part of the world, which was lovely. And then Jack moved away. He went to live in Germany for a bit. We actually were almost going to play in another band with Keith Emerson and Steve Hackett. That would have been 1983. It didn't come to anything, though, as a lot of times that actually happens. But we kept in contact over all these years, and then Jack moved back to the same area, and I remember him coming to my studio. By that time I had a residential studio, and he came to record there. I played on some tracks, and Charlie Watts played on some other tracks, and that would have been, I'm thinking, probably 1990. And then my last year in England, before I emigrated to the US, which would have been 1992, he called me to see if I would play with him and go to Japan for a tour. And that was, I thought, yes, I think it's about time that we play again. And we did a wonderful tour of Japan. We had so much fun. It was lovely to play his music and play with him again. Jack was the first person to introduce me to the US and to musicians in the US. I had been there briefly in 1974, but didn't make an impression really. It was so small and specialized, that particular thing that I did. So this was really the first time people in the States got to hear me play. Aside from playing on a few records, which some of the American public would have had, but generally I was pretty unknown. So he meant it was a huge stepping stone in my career. And I'm, so grateful to him taking me on at such an early age and, blazing the trail across the US. So we had a wonderful time. So I hope you enjoy seeing this amazing footage and amazing show, actually. I do remember it quite well. I do remember meeting, of course, a lot of other musicians on the festival and going to see a lot of the other people play. I think the funniest part about our show was we played and we were pretty rock and roll, and right after us was MJQ, which was the Modern Jazz Quartet. And I was standing in the wings. I could barely hear them. It was so quiet compared to what all the noise we made. So we were definitely the rock and roll artist on that show, on that festival. But it's a great show, and I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.